Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Drug Supply in the Time of COVID-19. For over 30 years, the National Organization for Rare Disorders has focused on the health and well-being of people living with rare diseases and their loved ones. As we navigate the COVID-19 pandemic and witness the impact it's having in the rare community, we want you to know that NORD's commitment to serving you is stronger than ever. My name is Katie Kowalski. I work in the Education Department at NORD, and it's my pleasure to be your host for today's webinar. This webinar is part of NORD's COVID-19 education series, which consists of webinars, information guides, videos, and podcasts. This series is being brought to you with support from Sanofi Genzyme, Horizon Therapeutics, Biogen, Strongbridge Pharma, and Blueprint Medicines. Throughout the COVID-19 outbreak, NORD has been busy creating resources and advocating for policies that protect the interests of rare disease stakeholders. Please visit our COVID-19 Resource Center at rarediseases.org for a listing of events and resources. And now I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Captain Paras Patel was commissioned into the U.S. Public Health Service in 1999. He has served in regulatory affairs at the Food and Drug Administration for the Office of Generic Drugs, Office of New Drugs, and Office of Orphan Products Development. He's currently a Senior Regulatory Review Officer at the FDA Drug Shortage Staff under the Office of the Center Director. Sheila Arquette is the Executive Director of the National Association of Specialty Pharmacies. She has extensive leadership experience in retail pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, long-term care consulting and dispensing, as well as with managed care, PBM, operations, and specialty pharmacy. She's a regular speaker and participant at national pharmacy conferences, roundtables, and industry meetings. She's the host of the NESP podcast on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. We're thrilled to have you both here today, and Paras, if you could please get us started.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Today I'll be presenting on the FDA efforts during COVID-19 for drug shortage prevention. Disclosure, I did not have any financial relations with the NORD program. Quick slide on the drug shortage mission. So drug shortage staff serves to support FDA's mission for ensuring that safe and effective drugs are available to patients. We facilitate, coordinate, we distribute information. We're constantly in tune with the supply chain in order to stay ahead of potential drug shortages. Brief history about the program was established in 1999, and then in 2011 and 2012, key legislative were passed that heightened the program and strengthened drug shortage prevention for FDA. And currently, we're under the Center of the Director, which was in 2014. The FDASIA, the Food, Drug, and Safety and Innovation Act, passed in 2012. This was a key piece of legislation that mandated that industry 6 months or greater notify the FDA that there's a potential event that could disrupt supply and potentially lead to drug shortages that, in effect, would decrease supply of medications for patient and practitioner access. This key legislation provides the FDA early notification so that we can collaborate with industry to stay ahead of shortages and continue to monitor supply chains in order to prevent drug shortages. Communication with industry is just one key. We're in constant communication with manufacturers daily to look at supply chains, look at not only beginning the supply chains, but end supply chains, and what impact does it have for critical medications for patient access. But we're also in communication with other U.S. agencies, international agencies, such as the EMA, TGA, and we're also in direct communications with pharmacists, patients, parents, patient groups such as NORD, researchers, just to overall see the drug supply, see the impact, what levels of the supply chain are being impacted. And we look at these, we review these, and then we take appropriate drug shortage prevention actions to try to mediate long-term shortages. So when I talk about the supply chain, When we work with manufacturers, we look at the supplier and the manufacturer. If we get early notification as FDASIA requires, and that is why it's such a key piece of legislation, we can prevent potential impact downstream to the wholesaler, pharmacy, and ultimately patient and practitioner access. So by working with manufacturers and by having open communications about supply chain interruptions, we can start looking at possible drug shortage prevention actions that can prevent downstream long-term shortages. The agency's approach to prevent and mitigate drug shortage. So again, we work with drug shortage manufacturers, and then we use all our regulatory allowances to try and prevent shortages, such as work with the manufacturers to expedite any remediation efforts or look at alternate sites. But sometimes, and in context to this presentation, unanticipated events do occur. Natural disasters, hurricanes, flooding, and in this case, pandemic COVID-19. But even during these events, we want to assure that the FDA is doing all it can to work with manufacturers, continue to look at supply chains in order to maintain drug supply. Role of industry to prevent and mitigate drug shortages. So again, industry has to look at their supply chains. They have to continue to look not only current, but forward thinking and look at any potential supply disruptions and notify the FDA. Early notification allows us time to look at the reasons for the shortages and work on shortage prevention actions. That is key to continuing to maintain supply, and especially during COVID-19 where critical medications are needed, especially for surge impact areas for ICU and ventilation needs. I encourage all the viewers online today to go to the FDA.gov homepage. There's a page dedicated to the FDA Takes Action to Address Coronavirus Disease 2019 page. This is a page that is updated daily, not only for drug shortage actions, but all the actions that FDA has taken for COVID-19 response. It's very informative and provides key information on all the actions that we're taking daily to stay ahead of COVID-19. A screenshot of the drug shortage website. If you see in red, highlighted again, is we're encouraging the manufacturers to look at your supply chains. By looking at your supply chains, you are providing us access and notification early if there's any impact that could ultimately lead to no access for medications for patients. I talked about all the actions that FDA has taken. So we're looked at internally any applications for critical medications. We've expedited the review of those. Any proposals from drug manufacturers for alternate sites that could be viable for additional supply of medications, we're looking to approve those. Also, if you look at the first screenshot, it says search list of extended use. So especially in critical areas, the need and use of critical ICU and ventilation medications, it's in such high demand and such high use. We've looked at a lot of products and beyond products and worked with manufacturers, look at data to extend the expiration. So pharmacists normally have a dated expiration, and prior to these products expiring, they will return those products. But with this dated extended use, you can continue to use these products safely, and the expiration has been extended. We looked at 503B, which is basically the compounding industry. So hospitals and facilities can access compounders, and they've provided greater flexibility for compounders to compound critical medications, so that again, access and more sources of medications are being provided during COVID-19. We've also worked with other agencies such as the DEA, so critical control products, injectable control products, access to quota, which is needed to continue to manufacture these products, has been provided. So again, the supply chain is taking a look at, and any actions that FDA is able to take to increase supply so that patients and practitioners have access to this to safe medication is being done and continues to be done. If you look at the last page, I just want to highlight, if you want to contact the FDA drug shortages, the drug shortages FDA.hhs.gov, it is an open inbox that is monitored daily. And if you have concerns about critical medications or your medications or not having access to your medication, you can notify the FDA Drug Shortage Staff. We do look at these notifications daily and to see the shortage impact. I also encourage viewers online to upload the app. We do have a drug shortage app that gives you access to the drug shortage website and the table. So there's a list of products that are maintained and reviewed daily, and we post any drug shortages. So not only are the drug shortages posted, but we provide information as who's manufacturing and also the availability. So I encourage viewers who have questions on particular products to go to the drug shortage website to see if they're on there and any information that would be helpful. And then provide the references that you're able to access online to get additional information. Now with that, I will transition to Ms. Arquette. Thank you.
Thank you, Paras, and I hope that all of you who are listening find as much comfort as I do in knowing all that the FDA is doing behind the scenes to ensure the integrity of the drug supply chain and also to monitor and mitigate any shortages. I am Sheila Arquette, and I am the Executive Director of the National Association of Specialty Pharmacy, or NESP. So what is NESP? We are the only nonprofit trade association representing all of the stakeholders in specialty pharmacy. So we represent not only the pharmacies, but the manufacturers, the PBMs, the health plans, the drug manufacturers, GPOs and wholesalers, and also data and technology vendors. Our mission is to elevate the practice of specialty pharmacy by developing and promoting continuing professional education and certification of specialty pharmacists, while also advocating for public policies that ensure patients have appropriate access to specialty medications in tandem with critical services that help rare and orphan disease patients achieve optimal clinical results. Now let's talk about what is a specialty pharmacy. Well, a specialty pharmacy is a state licensed and regulated pharmacy that solely or largely provides only medications for people with serious health conditions that require treatment with complex therapies. Most are accredited by one or more independent third parties to ensure consistent quality of care. Specialty pharmacies connect patients who are seriously ill with the medications that are prescribed for their conditions, and they also provide high-touch patient care services that, again, enable patients to achieve optimal clinical results. Specialty pharmacies also support patients who are facing reimbursement challenges for these highly needed medications that are oftentimes very, very costly. So the goals of specialty pharmacies include ensuring the appropriate use of medications, maximizing drug adherence, enhancing patient satisfaction through direct interaction with healthcare professionals, minimizing cost impact to patients wherever possible, and again, optimizing those pharmaceutical outcomes, and also they specialize in the delivery of information. So when the pandemic was declared and shelter-in-place orders were issued and non-essential businesses closed, thankfully, it was business as usual for specialty pharmacy. Specialty pharmacy was perfectly positioned to support the remote management of patients prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Their established business model and infrastructure supports the centralized prescription fulfillment, including dispensing and delivery, remote patient and disease management, and also a patient-centric care coordination model that involves all stakeholders. I like to tell folks that a specialty pharmacy, a high-performing specialty pharmacy, operates at the intersection of the 5 Ps: the patient, the prescriber, the payer, the drug pipeline, and the pharmaceutical manufacturer. So if servicing and caring for patients was not an issue, the focus of specialty pharmacy immediately shifted to what needed to be done to ensure that key dispensing pharmacy personnel were kept safe. Keeping these pharmacy team members healthy and safe was paramount to ensuring patients would continue to receive their medications without interruption. Immediately, an evaluation of pharmacy access points was conducted, with the focus on how to best clean and disinfect and socially distance these required personnel. Shifts were also staggered for the on-site personnel to limit their contacts and to mitigate their risk of contracting the virus. The pharmacy buildings themselves were restricted to authorized personnel only, and what this meant was a mobilization of the patient-facing or the call center staff to a work from home environment to again ensure that pharmacy personnel who must be on site are kept healthy, safe, and their exposure risk minimized. We wanted to make sure that they were healthy so that they can continue to service their patients. We also looked to dispensing, shipping, and delivery and to ensure that there was redundancy built into those processes. Dealing with a situation that makes folks feel that there's a loss of control requires effective and frequent communication. Communication is key to providing the calm reassurance that patients needed during such a chaotic time. Pharmacists are medication and drug supply experts, and pharmacists took it upon themselves to ensure that patients were kept up to date of information regarding their medications, the COVID-19 situation, and trying to process and help process for their patients all of the information that we were receiving. Specialty Pharmacy also increased their focus on enhancing communication with prescribers, payers, manufacturers, and also the FDA, federal, state, and local officials. Specialty Pharmacy as a community is also working collaboratively with the broader pharmacy and supply chain community to ensure that patients continue to receive their medications without interruption. We're focused again on looking at that medication delivery supply chain. And are there any impediments that we need to address? We're monitoring drug shortages with the help of the FDA and also manufacturers and patients, and also monitoring ongoing and new clinical trials and medications that are being used. Specialty pharmacies are also working with payers to obtain early refills where it makes sense, and 90-day supplies of medications where it's clinically appropriate. Specialty pharmacy is also working to facilitate the prior authorization process for new medications, and then also the continuation of authorizations currently in place, especially as some provider offices too transition to work from home and were sometimes a little bit more challenging to get a hold of. So now that we've talked a little bit about how specialty pharmacy sprung into action, what does NESP do to support its members? Well, we're working diligently to try to figure that out. As we all know, there is no playbook, right, to deal with this pandemic. But we do know that we need to support our members' needs. Early on, there was so much information being released, oftentimes hourly. Things were being changed and updated, new information becoming available. So we quickly took a step back and said, well, we don't know that we could be, as beneficial if we continue to regurgitate the information they already have. Why don't instead we create a resource center? Why don't we limit the amount of email that we're sending, create a resource center on our website with all of the resources? We also encouraged our members to submit information that we could post for the benefit of other members. So it's been really heartwarming for me to see members stepping up and taking care of other NESP members. We continue to advocate for pharmacy DIR reform, which will allow our specialty pharmacies to continue to care for patients. NESP as an organization is collaborating with the broader pharmacy community, also other pharmacy associations, the pharmaceutical supply and payment chain organizations, to again address and resolve issues that our members have brought up to us. We're also working with federal and state and local agencies to identify issues and to develop actionable solutions. Another thing that we did at NESP is we focused on connectivity. I think for me, and I'm sure for most of you, probably one of the most daunting aspects of this entire shelter at home and pandemic preparedness is the loss of connectivity with family members, folks that we love, our parents, our children, our friends. So we tried to develop programs that would let our members know that we're thinking about them, right? We care about you, reaching out, what do you need? What could we do better? Submit your suggestions and comments to us. We also focused on self-care and mental health. So important for our frontline essential healthcare workers to take care of themselves, right? We need them. We need them to keep showing up for work every day to take care of patients. Also, mental health can be, an extreme challenge right now, and we're trying to provide them with resources so that they can focus on their own mental health, also their family members, and then also their pharmacy team members, right? Because it is so difficult navigating this unprecedented time of uncertainty. We're also now beginning to look to the future when we come out of this COVID pandemic, and we need to look at the lessons learned to positively impact future patient care. We're going to be setting up work groups with all of the stakeholders and review what went well, what didn't, what should we change, what additional processes should we add, what can we take away. but we need you. Patients are at the center of all that specialty pharmacy does. So we need you to reach out to us and provide the feedback. What is going well for you? Where are your concerns? Do you have fears? What are your challenges? How could we better assist you? I encourage all of you to visit our website, naspnet.org, for more information and also to submit your feedback. I absolutely want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your suggestions, your criticisms. It's only in working together that we will get through this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Paras and Sheila, for sharing this important, but it's also really reassuring information. And good to hear all the work that you and your agencies are doing to maintain a consistent supply of medication for people in need across the country. So we've collected questions from participants during the registration and live webinar. We'll move to a Q&A session. Let's jump right in. First question, Sheila, what can members of the rare community do to be sure that their prescriptions stay up to date during the COVID-19 pandemic?
So again, I think, Katie, we focus on communication. I think maintaining that open dialogue with your dispensing pharmacy is key. Reach out if you have any questions, concerns. If you're interested in obtaining, an increased day's supply than you normally received, pre-COVID, make sure that you articulate your concerns with your pharmacy, and then they can reach out to the appropriate individuals to make sure that those fears are alleviated, right, and that you feel best taken care of.
Great, thank you. So, Paras, many of our registrants today are concerned that drugs they need for their rare conditions won't be available because they're being used as potential treatments for COVID-19. So, for example, hydroxychloroquine, which is used for autoimmune conditions or sarcoidosis. So, how long might those type of shortages last, and what would be your advice to those people?
That's a good question. For hydroxychloroquine, again, the need or the search for the product increased during early COVID-19. So the FDA has worked with industry to increase drug product in the supply chain. Currently, if you go to the FDA Drug Shortage webpage and go to the hydroxychloroquine, it has been posted in the drug shortage page. But if you look within that information, there's 9 manufacturers currently providing supply. So the FDA is working with manufacturers to continue to supply drug products so that you have access for your medication. We encourage you to continue to work and stay in communication with your practitioner. And if you are having drug shortage or not able to access your medication, please contact the FDA Drug Shortage Staff at the website provided so that we can review your notification and provide some guidance. So continue to work with your pharmacist, continue to work with your practitioner, and I encourage you to monitor the FDA website because, again, it's updated daily with availability information, and currently hydroxychloroquine has been posted, so information is being provided.
And is it pretty easy to get through to the FDA if you do contact them?
Yeah, so the drug shortage website email is monitored daily, and we get notifications not only from industry and pharmacists and practitioners, but also from patients for a variety of products. So yes, if you email us, we will review and respond back.
Great, good to know. Another question, Sheila, for you. Some of our participants have asked if they should maybe begin to ration drugs that are used to treat their rare disorders so that their supply can last a longer time. How would you respond to that query?
Katie, I would say absolutely 100% not. No, please do not ration your medications. Do not adjust the way that you take them. You should continue to take them as prescribed. That is the way the drug has been tested. It has been shown to be effective at that dosage and that interval. But what I would suggest is that if you have any concerns or any fears or you're uneasy, reach out to the doctor taking care of you, reach out to the pharmacy, tell them, right? You may be able to get an increased supply on your next dispense, which would give you a little bit of feeling of comfort. And they may also be able to just assure you that there's no issue at all with your medication, right? We're monitoring it. We know that you're on it. We know that you need it, right? Especially our rare and orphan disease patients. We're making sure that we have the medication in stock when you're going to need it. So just continue to take it as you have always taken it and as it's been prescribed.
Thank you. Thank you. And then also underscoring for any dosage changes, I think contacting clinicians is always, a great route. So Paras, I have one question. Actually, I'm going to kind of roll two questions into one here because one of our live listeners is asking if you monitor active ingredients as well as the drugs themselves. So that's number one. And then another question is, many of the active and raw ingredients for drugs used in the United States come from China or India. So given the COVID-19 pandemic, what are the implications for people in the United States?
Yes. So when you go back and look at the slide that had the supply chain, so manufacturing is not just finished dosage form, right? It's the whole drug approval process. So looking at active ingredients is key also, and that's where the communication with the pharmaceutical industry is key, and it's a constant communication. So they know their supply chains. They know currently the ingredients that are needed to make these products, and notification requirements that I spoke about include any type of event that could lead to shortage impact. So not getting active ingredient is a notification reason. So we did look at supply chain, and we are looking at supply chain, especially for COVID. It is a global pandemic, and manufacturing has been impacted in all industries. So we are looking at supply chains, and we are staying active with manufacturers, and they continue to notify us that they are able to get key ingredients needed to produce their medications. And if they do have a potential event that could impact availability, they provide proposals, and we'll look at those proposals that could include an alternate manufacturing site at a different location, which will expedite and review. So we are looking at all aspects of the supply chain that ultimately could impact access to critical medication.
Thank you. Sheila, one person is writing in asking for clarification on specialty pharmacy. Is that a company or a type of pharmacy we might find in our community? So if you maybe just a brief comment on what specialty pharmacy is as opposed to regular pharmacy. And then a second follow-up is, people are asking is, have you seen people able to get a couple months supply of their medication at a time? Somebody's worried about, getting specialty formulas and having enough on hand.
Sure. So specialty pharmacy is a type of pharmacy practice setting. Just like a retail pharmacy is a type of practice setting where, the pharmacy at your corner of happy and healthy in your community. Also, hospitals have their own pharmacies. Specialty pharmacy is a pharmacy practice setting, and we specialize in patients with these complex disease states that require treatment with complex medications. They require intensive counseling, patient and disease management, financial assistance. Oftentimes, there's complexity around insurance authorization requirements. So a specialty pharmacy has that infrastructure to provide those high-touch services that specialty pharmacy patients need. Typically, probably the medications that you're receiving are coming from some sort of specialty pharmacy. Most of our rare and orphan drug manufacturers utilize specialty pharmacy to ensure that patients receive this patient-centric model of care and approach. And then I have seen, insurance carriers, health plans, pharmacy benefit managers being extremely understanding during this time and waiving requirements of a 30-day supply and authorizing extended day supplies and allowing pharmacies who perhaps were precluded from shipping medications or delivering medications through the mail to the patient's home, allowing that to happen. So they have been extremely collaborative and just, appreciating that it's in everybody's best interest to keep people home and safe, right? And if we can deliver medications to their home, that's what we should be doing. If we can give them a little bit more of a supply to ease some of the uncertainty during this time, that's also what we're doing. So yes, I've absolutely seen such collaboration on all fronts. It's been amazing.
Really good to hear. Well, our time has unfortunately passed really quickly. I'm going to squeeze in one last question that I'll ask both of you, something, forward-looking, which is, what has the COVID-19 pandemic taught us, at the FDA, or you at the FDA, or at the specialty pharmacy, that could be useful in addressing drug shortages in the future?
I can take that first. So I think with COVID-19, there's always lessons learned regardless of the events, but with COVID-19, just the need to continue to maintain open communication, not only with industry, but with patients and parents and practitioners regarding availability of key medications, and continuing to review and understand the supply chain impact so that we can stay ahead and prevent drug shortages.
Great. Sheila, any comments?
Sure. I think from the specialty pharmacy perspective, again, it is communication, and also collaboration. I'm pretty excited about a post-COVID-19 world where we can actually sit down and look at the processes that we've all, have been ingrained in, right, and committed to, and what worked during this pandemic and what didn't. At the center of everything that we do in the drug supply chain should be the patient, right? So I'm excited to look for ways that we can improve the process and just take our lessons learned and make the care we deliver to patients so much better in the future.
Great. Well, thank you, Paras and Sheila, for being with us today. Thank you for the good work that you're doing to support patients. And we also want to say thank you again to Biogen, Strongbridge Biopharma, Sanofi Genzyme, Blueprint Medicines, and Horizon Therapeutics for supporting this event. And after the webinar, you'll receive a short survey. So to our listeners, please complete it so it can help us to develop future webinars that are interesting for you. Thanks for joining us. Everybody have a good rest of your day.